Welcome everyone to this deep dive. And today we're going to take a look at PuREV, an Indian electric vehicle company that's been really making waves. And we've got some excerpts here from a document that goes into detail about their expansion plans and kind of the ripple effects they're having on India as a whole. So our mission today is to kind of figure out not just what PuREV is doing, but what their moves tell us about the future of India.
Well, I think what's really interesting to me is that PuREV isn't just focused on, selling electric scooters and motorcycles. They're thinking bigger, envisioning how EVs can fit into a much broader, ecosystem of energy infrastructure and daily life in India.
Okay, so let's break down what we got here first off. PuREV is on a pretty ambitious expansion spree. They're aiming to add 250 new dealerships in the next 30 months, which would bring them to a total of 320 outlets spread across India.
Yeah, and that's a pretty bold move, if you ask me. And it says a lot about the confidence they have in the Indian EV market. And I mean, the demand for electric scooters and motorcycles is just skyrocketing. And PuREV is clearly, they're capitalizing on that trend. But there's another factor here that I think is really interesting. Their strategic focus on B2B contracts.
And speaking of which, PuREV is not stopping at just vehicles. They're also in 2025, they're launching something called PuREPower, which is an energy solution that's aimed at providing power backup for households. What do you think is the big picture significance of this?
Well, this really shows that they're thinking beyond just transportation and aiming to become like a really key part of the entire, energy landscape of a home, and especially in a country like India where reliable power supply can sometimes be a challenge. Offering a solid backup solution could be a major thing that makes them stand out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So now let's kind of get into the weeds a little bit and talk about the tech that's driving PuREV. They're using something called nano PCM, which stands for phase change material in their batteries. Now, for those of us who aren't battery geeks, can you unpack what that actually means?
So basically, imagine a material inside the battery that acts like a thermal sponge almost, absorbing excess heat and preventing those, dangerous temperature spikes that can lead to battery failures. That's nano PCM in a nutshell. It's a really sophisticated thermal management system. That not only makes things safer, but also really improves the battery's performance and how long it lasts.
Oh, wow. I see. And they're also very heavily invested in AI and cloud-based systems for their vehicles as well.
Yeah, and that's not just about adding, fancy features. This data-driven approach lets them constantly monitor and tweak the performance of their vehicles in real time. So it's like creating a feedback loop where the scooter is always learning and adapting to the rider's habits. And it can even predict potential issues before they even happen, which I think is a game changer for, maintenance and just making sure things run smoothly.
Kind of sounds like having a personal mechanic for your scooter, constantly keeping tabs on everything.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It's like a digital guardian angel for your EV, just making sure you have a smooth, worry-free ride.
I like that. Okay, so let's talk models now. PuREV has two flagship electric motorcycles. The EcoDrift, which is targeted at the 110cc segment, and the eTrist, which is aimed at the 125cc market. Both models boast a really impressive range of 171 kilometers on a single charge, thanks to their Advanced X platform.
And I think range anxiety is one of the biggest things that holds people back from switching to EVs, and the fact that PuREV is addressing this head-on with a range that's comparable to traditional gas-powered bikes could really be a game changer in convincing more people to make the switch.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Now, PuREV isn't just focused on the Indian market. They're already exporting to Nepal and Bhutan. And they have big plans to enter the Middle East and Africa by the end of 2024, 2025.
Yeah, and that international expansion strategy is a pretty clear sign that they've got global ambitions. They're not content with just being a big player in India. They want to compete on the world stage. Makes sense. One thing that I found really interesting in this document was their approach to customer support. They're implementing generative AI to provide personalized communication in regional languages. Oh, and that's where PuREV's understanding of the Indian market really shines through. India is incredibly diverse with so many languages spoken across the country. And by offering support in regional languages, they're making a powerful statement about inclusivity and accessibility. It's about making sure every customer feels valued and understood, no matter what language they speak.
Yeah, it's much more than just a technical feature. It's a really smart move that could give them a big advantage in connecting with a wider customer base.
Absolutely. It's all about breaking down those language barriers and creating a personalized customer experience, which is so important in today's competitive market.
For sure. Now, we touched on their B2B contracts earlier in Kannada Audiofelian.
Yeah.
They've already supplied over 300 e-motorcycles to the Tamil Nadu Forest Department
Hmm.
and Tata Power in Odisha. What does that signal to you?
Well, this is huge. It shows that pure EV is gaining traction not just with individual consumers, but also with these big organizations in the government and corporate sectors. And these are key players when it comes to
Yeah.
large-scale EV adoption. So the fact that they're embracing pure EV's products early on could have a ripple effect, encouraging other organizations to follow suit.
Yeah, it really does seem like Pure EV is hitting all the right notes in terms of their strategy.
Yeah.
But let's kind of zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture. What does the rise of a company like Pure EV mean for India as a whole?
Well, this is where things get really interesting. Pure EV isn't just building a company. They're contributing to this larger transformation that's happening in India, a transformation that has profound implications for the environment, the economy, and the everyday lives of people.
Yeah, that's a great point. So let's dive into that a little bit more. So let's start with the environmental impact. I mean, India faces some pretty serious challenges with air pollution. And Pure EV is kind of tackling that head on by pushing for that shift from, fossil fuel powered vehicles to electric alternatives.
Yeah, and it's not just about having cleaner air in the cities, right? Reducing our dependence on fossil fuels has much bigger consequences, from, fighting climate change to actually improving people's health. Every EV on the road is like a step towards a more sustainable future.
Right. And it's not just about the environment either. Pure EV's expansion is creating jobs across the whole EV ecosystem, from manufacturing and sales to maintenance and charging infrastructure. This is a big boost for the economy, especially in areas where jobs might be scarce.
Yeah, the economic impact is huge as pure EV grows. It's creating this ripple effect throughout the Indian economy. It's stimulating innovation, it's attracting investment, and it's helping to develop a skilled workforce, which is so important.
Now, India's dependence on imported fossil fuels has always been a concern. How does Pure EV play into that?
Well, the switch to electric vehicles directly addresses that issue. It reduces India's reliance on those oil imports. And that's a strategic move towards energy independence. It makes the country more resilient economically and frees up resources to invest in other important areas.
That makes sense. Of course, we can't talk about EVs without mentioning charging infrastructure. India needs a really solid network of charging stations to make EVs a practical option for everyone, especially in rural areas.
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial point. The lack of widespread charging infrastructure is one of the biggest hurdles to mass adoption. And Pure EV gets that they're not just focused on building vehicles, they're also actively contributing to developing that charging network.
It's like they're building the whole ecosystem as they go, anticipating what the market needs and coming up with solutions before the problems even pop up.
Exactly. They're thinking long term.
Yeah.
They understand that for EVs to really succeed, you need a holistic approach that considers every step of the process.
Their commitment to all this cutting-edge technology is impressive. The advanced battery systems, the AI-powered features. What does all that mean in the grand scheme of things?
I think it signals a bigger shift in India, a move towards a more sustainable and technologically advanced future. Pure EV isn't just using existing technology, they're pushing the boundaries, setting a new standard for the industry.
So they're not just playing catch-up, they're aiming to be a leader.
Exactly. Their ambition and their dedication to innovation is truly inspiring, and it's a good sign for India's place in the global EV market.
Now let's imagine for a second the impact of EVs on cities. EV-friendly infrastructure integrated into city planning that could really change things.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine cities with less traffic congestion, cleaner air, quieter streets. EVs could be instrumental in creating smarter, more livable urban environments, and that would improve the lives of millions of people.
Yeah, and we can't forget about the health benefits either. Cleaner air means fewer respiratory problems and less pollution-related illness, leading to a healthier population and lower healthcare costs.
It's a win-win. Addressing environmental challenges by adopting EVs directly benefits public health and creates a healthier and more sustainable future for everyone.
So it seems like the story of Pure EV is much bigger than just making electric vehicles. It's about a company driving a significant transformation in India, with implications that reach far beyond just the car industry.
Yeah, it's a story about innovation, sustainability, and the potential for positive change. And it's a story that's still being written with lots of exciting chapters yet to come.
I like that a lot. It's kind of crazy how much the perception of electric vehicles has changed. It wasn't that long ago that they were seen as this niche product, almost like a novelty. But now it feels like everyone's starting to realize their true potential. What do you think has driven this shift?
Well, I think a big part of it is that the technology has finally caught up. Batteries are way more efficient now, charging times are getting shorter, and EVs are becoming more and more affordable compared to gas-powered
Right.
cars.
And beyond just the tech itself, I think there's this growing awareness of how our transportation choices impact the environment. People are starting to see that driving an EV isn't just a personal decision, it's a statement about the kind of future we want to create.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of urgency now that wasn't there before. We're seeing the effects of climate change happening all around us, and people are looking for ways to reduce their carbon footprint. And EVs offer a real, tangible solution to this global problem.
It's not just individuals driving this change, though. Governments all over the world are putting policies in place to encourage EV adoption, whether it's tax breaks, subsidies, or even mandates for charging infrastructure.
Yeah, that top-down support is crucial. When governments make it clear that they're serious about switching to electric mobility, it creates an environment where businesses and consumers feel confident investing in EVs.
It really does feel like we're at a turning point, don't you think? We're seeing more and more EVs on the roads. Charging stations are popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
Even the big traditional car companies are jumping on the electric bandwagon.
It's a classic example of disruptive innovation. EVs are shaking up the entire car industry, and it's fascinating to watch how they're adapting. Some companies are embracing the change and investing heavily in EV development, while others are struggling to keep up.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Who will emerge as the leaders in this electric revolution? What will our roads look like in 10 or 20 years?
Those are the big questions, and honestly, the answers are still up in the air. But one thing is for sure, the future of transportation is electric. There's no turning back now.
So, circling back to pure EV, what do you think their potential is? Do they have what it takes to become a household name, a symbol of India's transition to a more sustainable future? And what kind of innovations can we expect from them in the next 5 or 10 years?
Well, those are some great questions, and those are the questions we want to leave you with today. What parts of Pure EV's story resonated with you? What are your hopes and concerns about the future of electric vehicles, both in India and around the world?
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of pure EV. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking, and if you're interested in learning more, be sure to check out their website.